Hello everyone, welcome to What If Deku Had a Bad Quirk. You know, I was sick of him kind of being too OP in the original timeline, so I decided, you know what, let's give him an absolute stinker quirk. Without further ado, let's get into it. Izuku Midoriya is born to Inko and Hisashi Midoriya, a regular family with a regular child. Deku will be playing with Bakugo as a kid, sitting in the sandpit. He reaches over to pick up a spade, sitting next to Bakugo. As he does this, a small shock zaps Bakugo. He reflexively jumps and looks at Deku. Ow, Deku, what the hell? That hurt. Deku apologized, asking him what happened. You zapped me. Maybe it's your quirk. Deku smiled and looked down at his hands, trying to recreate it, but with no luck. The next day would roll around and Deku would be sitting in class once again. The teacher was reading a book aloud to them as Deku and Bakugo were talking. Deku cups his mouth and goes to whisper to Bakugo when his pinky zaps Bakugo's face. Bakugo once again jolt back reflexively before going, Ow, Deku, you did it again! Deku would apologize and the teacher would come up to the two of them. Bakugo would tell the teacher that Deku keeps zapping him with his stupid quirk. The teacher hearing this would call Inko and they would rush to the doctor's office. Inko would drive over to the school, extra excited. She was starting to think her son would never develop a quirk. It was kind of a relief. She'll pick up Deku, bringing him to the quirk doctor. Well, it seems your son does have a quirk. A weak electric quirk, allowing him to generate a small amount of static electricity. Not much though, I'm afraid. About enough for a small shock for the meantime, though it could be developed with time. Izuku's mum looks at her son worried. He stares back, beaming, thinking it was the coolest thing ever. They go home, and Deku tries to activate it, focusing and creating a little spark between his fingers. Eventually, figuring it out, but feeling extra drained, he would skip dinner and fall asleep. The next day at school, he would show off his quirk at school. The class would be kind of impressed with an audible, ooh. Bakugo would scoff and tease Deku, saying his quirk was way better. Deku would try to train his quirk to his maximum, doubling its output to a moderate shock by the time he was 14. He would still be made fun of by Bakugo and his Goonies though, for being weak and useless, using his brains with his quirk instead to help keep him on an edge. Deku would walk to school on the last day, sitting down with the teacher announcing they were doing a career aptitude test. The class groans and the teacher cracks a grin before yelling, "Just kidding! I know you all want to be heroes!" As he would throw the papers up in the air. They all cheer and the teacher would point at Deku and Bakugo specifically, saying their heroes' aspirations out aloud to the class. Everyone stares at Deku, including Bakugo. Deku rubs the back of his neck and puts his head on the desk. The rest of the day would go on as normal, and Bakugo would press Deku after school about. The rest of the day would go on as normal. The bell would ring, and Bakugo would press Deku after school about UA. Deku would try to explain, but would get beat up before he could. Bakugo would leave Deku and walk home, taking a shortcut as his mum expected him home soon. The sludge villain would appear and wrap around Deku, who didn't react in time. Instinctively, by using his quirk, he would zap the villain, doing absolutely nothing. He'd be saved by All Might, much like in canon, and the incident would go pretty much the same way. This timeline, Deku not latching on to All Might as he didn't catch up in time, causing no second incident. Deku would go home and begin training for the UA entrance exam. Hoping he can bring in a support weapon to help him with his acceptance, he would start tinkering, using his electricity to power small devices, but not for long. Over this time, he would once again get his output up and allow him to make a small shock in his fingers for about 5 seconds or so. Though it moves slowly and it's hard to focus. He can do this attack every 2 minutes. Walking through the UA gates, he handles the theory exam, taking it with some ease and passing with a good 90% grade, focusing on his book smarts a lot as he would need them for his engineering. He then lines up for the practical exam. He would fan his face as he was sweating, looking around the crowd. The doors would suddenly swing open, and Deku, standing there much like in canon. The crowd sits there for about a minute. President Mike looks down and gets up them for not going. The crowd would start running, Deku included, to fight some robots. Deku gets out to the front of the pack and splits off, into a tight passageway with a three-pointer in front of him. Deku slides below one and throws a punch at it, trying to flow his electricity into it as a second impact. A quote-unquote special move he's been developing. His fist connects and clinks as he pulls away, holding it. Ow! He says as he runs away. Figuring the three-pointers were too much for 9 now, he would find some one-pointers instead. He uses his quirk to charge on the one-pointer, trying to fry its circuit. He unloads all he has on it, and powers off. He jumps for joy, looking around to find more robots. He looks around and he doesn't see any though. The streets are clean and the zero-pointer approaches. He, seeing this, runs away, not looking back and unable to hear the voice that yells for help. The zero-pointer stops before it was going to hit Uraraka, and Deku walks home depressed. He waits for the letter for a month until one comes. He opens it alone in his room, seeing a piece of paper informing him that he did not make the cut and he got a measly 1 point. He's heartbroken by this, but still not deterred, being accepted to the UA General Studies and Engineering course instead, due to his high grades in the entrance exam. He starts his classes, befriending Hatsume and making gadgets for the hero classes, including their hero suits. Deku works tirelessly on a way to increase his quirk's effectiveness on the side, still adamant on his position as a hero. About a month goes by and he hears what happened to Class 1A at the USJ. He's horrified and decides to work even harder. He completes a prototype, which he gets the okay to use in the sports festival, being accepted. He lines up at the stage, looking around the crowd, going crazy. He feels pumped. Looking up, he sees Bakugo walking on a stage. He does his usual speech and actually meets eye contact with Deku for a split second. Deku looks back and squints. The crowd boos and the festival begins. Due to him having a connection with Mei, he uses some of her gadgets, like those boot ones she had and that grappling one she had, getting him through the first 2 rounds of the sports festival. He would actually replace her spot in the 1v1s as he was using her tech and he agreed to show it off during the round. The 1v1 will begin, Deku and Ida. This timeline is completely fair as there's no agreement made between him and Deku to forfeit after showing their gadgets. The gun goes off and Deku rushes towards the middle, using Mei's boots to boost his speed. He flicks his right hand down, followed by his left, opening a metal rod on one side and a target on the other. The crowd looks in awe. Ida rushes in with his quirk and runs to right in front of him in a second. Deku barely reacts, throwing his right out, just grazing Ida. He uses his quirk in tandem with the metal rod and supercharges his shock. Ida feels this, putting him out of commission for a few seconds, which Deku capitalizes on, picking him up and running to the other side of the arena. Ida wakes up and knees Deku. They tumble and Ida catches himself, running away from the out of bounds line. Deku is left kneeling on the floor. Ida walks him down, trying to be all big. Deku lifts his left hand up, aiming a small flip-up target at Ida. He then clenches his fist and 2 thin wires come out, connecting with Ida's chest. He smiles and focuses, building up his charge. Concentrating, he closes his eyes just for a second. The second Ida sees this though, he pulls out the wires, pulling Deku closer. Deku was flung into the air. "Nice trick, you're smart," he would say, before running at Deku and sending a mean right kick to his stomach, which would send him crashing out of bounds. Deku would end up getting 8th place, with Shinso actually getting top 5, until Todoroki bitched him. People were impressed. 2 people from the casual course got so high this year, especially with the talent on display. The crowd goes nuts, giving them a good send-off. Due to Deku not being one of the hero course, he actually doesn't save Ida, having his last interaction ever being at the sports festival. He hears about it and is saddened, feeling helpless against it. His internship time would be spent helping heroes with gear along with furthering his own technology, creating full gauntlets that would help him store off any wasted energy as a byproduct of his quirk. This would help him build up more energy quicker and help him alleviate some mental stress for trying to build up high amounts of electricity at once. He would show this tech to Mei and his teacher, who would actually bring it to Nezu, who was impressed. It would go down the grapevine, and a copy of his invention would find its way to the Shields, who like his stuff. He also hears about the training camp situation that occurred on Class 1A. Though he hated Bakugo, he was still his friend for all those years as a kid. His capture would send Deku off. He would stay awake for many sleepless nights developing a tech that all heroes can use to help detect people. He bases his invention on his quirk and completes it, distributing it to a small inner circle, helping heroes locate the stronghold All For One was at, along with where Bakugo was at, which he was condemned for highly. The battle between All For One and All Might goes the same, All Might retiring and passing his quirk to Mirio in this timeline. After the success of its launch, his invention would go mainstream, and Deku would be rich, deciding to stay in school anyway to further his education. And kind of a big shot around UA, actually getting Bakugo and Mirio's attention. They would return to school, continuing through UA. Deku and Mei both building quite the reputation together as kind of a power couple. They get special requests by top heroes for their gear, like Endeavor and Hawks. They also work with the militaries of other countries, building connections with the Star and Stripes and the American Army. The war in this timeline will go much better. Due to the support of his inventions, plus some others, they were easily able to deduce where the forces are and their number, launching a surprise attack and jumping the Liberation Army, finishing them off for good as Shigaraki was still in his cryopod. That's about it. After spending so much time with her, he ends up with Mei, because of course he does. He would also be introduced to the Shields through All Might, becoming friends with them closely and sharing their tech together to further develop with each other. They would work together on his island for a bit. All Might actually tells Deku on this timeline about One For All as he needed his help teaching Mirio to use his multiple quirks. His quirks were currently unstable in his body and breaking his body apart. Deku would work tirelessly on this, and due to his work on his own hero suit, coupled together with David Shield's research, he would actually help alleviate the issue, taking the strain off of multiple quirks off of Mirio's body. Due to this, Mirio would have a long and successful hero career. Deku would be happy and would return to research. About a week later though, All Might would return to the island. Bringing a strange briefcase with him, he would hurry to Deku and open it in front of him, with Mei and the Shields watching along. They would have made a fully functional hero suit like the one in canon, but better due to his tech. Using his quirk as a battery and the quirks of One For All as a base, he would actually be cracked. Due to the help of everyone, he would begin his hero journey finally. I just wanted to thank everyone for watching. I know it was a bit of a short one, but you know, I didn't really have much substance. I thought it was pretty good. I kind of liked the robot bit. I mean, I did write it, so I'm kind of tooting my own horn here. But anyway, if you like this video, could you please like and subscribe? It would make my day. And see you next time.